There's been a lot of news, obviously, in the press over the last few days, the last few weeks really, about the refugee crisis in the European Union. And we've seen a lot of people looking at this terrible photo of this young child in a soldier's arms. And we're now beginning to hear a lot of people saying Europe must do something, has to take action. As if this hasn't been an ongoing struggle over the last few years to try and get the European Union to get its act together on a common European asylum system. That we've had a big argument, for example, over the Dublin regulation. You hear a lot of people talking about that now, which assumes that somebody should claim asylum in the first safe country that they come to. And yet we had to argue within that for member states to have some sort of peer review, as it were, some sort of understanding of looking at each other's systems and seeing if those systems were fit for purpose and if they were actually dealing with the applications that they had then. In fact, we've still got an argument going on about Dublin, about unaccompanied minors, where we've had a court ruling that's made it very, very clear that an unaccompanied minor that crosses the border to another EU member state, their claim should be dealt with in the state where they're resident. And we've still got EU governments trying to pretend that that wasn't what the court said and that something else should be happening. Now we're seeing the real cracks in the common asylum system opening up. And European governments have to make a real decision about whether they're going to act together or basically see this whole thing crack apart. And obviously, as a Green, I've been arguing for years that they need to act together and really work together so that they are meeting the needs of the asylum seeker, that person in distress, fleeing with a well-founded fear of persecution, fearing risk of violence for humanitarian protection needs, and actually work together on that. So the time has really come for our governments to decide that they're going to act together, that they're going to work with some sort of relocation scheme. So that when we have, for example, as I saw over the summer, 1,500 people arrive in Sicily at the same point, at the same time, how do you expect everybody there to be properly fingerprinted, to be put into reception centres, to be dealt with properly, unless the rest of Europe is actually going to step in and help? You have to suspend the Dublin regulation. EU member states, even under the existing regulation, don't have to return people to the first safe country. They can decide that they're going to act in solidarity, indeed as Angela Merkel is now doing in Germany, and say we're not sending people back. But we need to be clear on the signals that we send as well, that people will be picked up at sea. How many years has it taken to actually work on that? That people will be rescued, people will be dealt with, their claims will be examined properly, and they will be cared for, and that they, if necessary, member states act together to take their fair share. And the UK could certainly be doing one heck of a lot more on that. We've been acting in this semi-detached way the whole way through this crisis. We have our own resettlement scheme where we've taken just over 200 Syrians. Big deal. Look at what Lebanon's doing. Look at what's happening, in Jordan, and our government's worried about the pull factor of taking in 200 more people. So we need to act together for a proper resettlement scheme, working with UNHCR from the countries in the region. We need to be working together on the relocation scheme that the Commission has put forward, and we need to be serious about settlement, actually looking after people in the long term. And we need to be doing away with some of these weak, pathetic excuses that we're hearing from governments who are saying, oh, well, we're only going to take Christians. How do you know? What are the values of the people coming? These are people fleeing oppression, fleeing in fear of their life. And you were saying to them, actually, we're going to discriminate even further against you on the basis of faith. We have some member states who say we can't take Muslims. We have no mosques. Look at what the history is of the UK. People there didn't come because there were mosques. They came because they needed to. They create their own mosques. Christians don't need a church in which to worship. Neither does anybody else if they have a faith base. And we need also to be really making sure that we invest in the integration of people when they're here and stop this idea about sort of cutting benefits as if somehow cutting benefits makes life easier for people and shows people that, well, we're only half-hearted about this. People need to be able to live in dignity, they need to be able to contribute, and they actually want to work to learn, and those children are desperate for a chance in life. So in the European Parliament in the next few days, we have an opportunity to vote to send a very strong message to our governments about what they should be doing. We can join with so many of the people of Europe who are standing up in solidarity with those fleeing for their lives now, and actually demand that our governments take action, take positive action, stop building fences, start building bridges so people have a way into the European Union. And that doesn't mean we forget about what's happening in Syria. It means that we still deal with Syria, Libya, whatever, but those are long-term issues, and it's not a substitute for actually rescuing children before they drown.